Ambassador Li Heian walked slowly into the huge meeting hall of the Galactic Federation Council. His fancy robes made soft sounds as he moved. All around him, strange alien beings sat in their special areas. The tall Villani looked like walking crystals with sharp edges. The Keth delegates were like living liquid that changed colors to talk. The scary Korath had hard shells covered in battle scars. "The human group will now tell us what they want to give," said the council speaker. This old creature called a... Dex had many eyes that looked at Heian like he was not important. Heian walked forward very carefully, moved like someone who had never hurt anyone. His helper Kimnari stood behind him, holding a computer tablet. It had information about Earth's new gifts, tiny robots that could heal people, better space radios, and new ways to grow food. "Dear council members," Heian said in his calm voice, "Earth wants to help make peace in our galaxy. We have new things that can save lives and help everyone." A deep, angry sound came from where the Korath sat. General Vextar, their main war. Lita leaned forward. His voice was rough and mean. "Your people talk about peace while we fight and die protecting our borders? When will humans send fighters instead of doctors?" Heian's face stayed peaceful and kind. "Dear General, humans have grown past our old fighting ways. We think our best help is saving lives, not ending them." The Villani delegate made a sound like glass breaking. "The Krex Empire is gathering warships near our space. Your growth will not matter if we cannot fight back. We trust that the Federation's armies are strong," Heian said smoothly. "Earth is ready to help with supplies, medical care, and new technology. We are much better at healing than hurting." When the meeting ended, all the different alien creatures left making clicking sounds, hissing noises and electronic beeps. They talked quietly about how humans were useful for helping but sad that they had no fighting spirit. Far away on the Federation command ship, Park Mina sat alone in her room watching the meeting on her screen. She smiled a little. Her job title said peacekeeping helper. But her real work was much more important. She turned on a secret radio to talk to Earth Command. "Admiral," she said very quietly, "they still believe we are peaceful. They think we forgot how to fight." And the answer came right away. "Very good, Colonel Park. Keep watching them. Soon they will learn why humans lived through 10,000 years of war." Mina turned off the secret radio and went back to her fake work. She wrote reports about giving food and medicine to people who needed help. But in her mind, she was making notes about every weakness she saw in the alien armies. The other aliens thought humans were soft and weak. They saw Earth people as good for fixing things and helping sick people, but useless in a real fight. Korath laughed about human weakness. Villani thought humans were too scared to fight. Even the peaceful Vex believed that humans had lost their warrior hearts long ago. But they were all wrong. It's very, very wrong. Every day humans watched and learned. They studied how each alien race fought. They learned about their weapons, their battle plans, and their fears. When aliens shared their military secrets during friendly talks, humans remembered everything. When they worked together on projects, humans quietly figured out how to beat each alien technology. The humans had not forgotten how to fight. They had simply learned something much more valuable. They had learned how to hide their true strength until the right moment came. In secret places throughout human space, hidden from alien eyes, Earth's real military prepared. Ships that looked like mining vessels were actually powerful warships. Space stations that seemed to study stars were really weapon factories. Soldiers who appeared to be farmers and doctors were actually trained killers waiting for orders. The Krex Empire was coming. Everyone knew it. Their scout ships had been seen near Federation worlds. Their war fleets were gathering in dark space between the stars. Soon they would attack, and when they did, they would face the same alien armies they had studied and prepared to defeat, but they had never studied the real human military. They had no idea what Earth could really do in a fight. Just like all the other aliens in the Federation, the Krex thought humans were peaceful weaklings who could only help with medical supplies and food. Ambassador Yoon and Colonel Park both knew this day was coming. They had spent years preparing. For it, every smile, every peaceful word, every offer of help had been part of a much bigger plan. When the time came to fight, humanity would be ready. The aliens would learn that some of the most dangerous enemies are the ones you never see coming. They would discover that the greatest warriors are sometimes those who convince everyone they have forgotten how to fight. Earth had been patient. Earth had been careful. Earth had been watching and waiting. Soon it would be time to show the galaxy what humans could really do. Commander Yexel was a tough warrior from the Korth people. His hard-shell body was covered in scars from 43 big battles he had fought across 6 different star systems. Each scar told a story: burns from plasma guns, dents from metal bullets, and marks from poison gas attacks. These scars made him proud because they showed he was a real fighter. But now, sitting in his dark room, looking at computer screens, Yextal felt worried. Something was very wrong with the information about Earth and the human people, the official report said. Earth was a peaceful world. The humans claimed they had stopped fighting wars 300 years ago. Their space navy was supposed to be just small ships that protected asteroid miners and fancy guards for important meetings. Everything looked normal and boring. But Yextal had good instincts. After surviving so many battles, he could smell danger even when it was hidden. The human data felt wrong. Like a lie told very carefully, he started digging deeper into the Federation's secret computer files. What he found made his bug-like mouthparts click together nervously. The more he looked, the more scared he became. Earth's solar system had 13 big space stations floating around their planets. The humans said these were research stations and factories. But when Yextal used his best scanning equipment to look at them from far away, they did not look like normal research stations at all. The power readings were huge, much bigger than any research station would need. The energy patterns looked exactly like military weapon systems. Not small weapons either, but massive guns that could destroy entire fleets of ships. The humans were lying about what these stations really were. Even worse, Yexel found shipping records that made no sense. Earth was buying huge amounts of special metals and rare materials from other worlds. They claimed these materials were for making farming equipment and medical supplies. But the amounts were crazy: enough metal to build 1,000 warships, enough rare crystals to power weapons for a whole army. Where was all this material going? What were the humans really building? Yextal pulled up the old history files about Earth. From before they joined the Federation, what he read made his blood run cold. The humans had not been peaceful farmers and doctors back then. They had been the most violent, creative, and dangerous warriors in their part of the galaxy. For thousands of years, humans had fought terrible wars against each other. They'd invented weapons that could poison entire planets. They'd built bombs that could crack moons in half. They had created diseases that could kill millions of people. They had fought with such cleverness and cruelty that they had nearly destroyed their own world many times. But then, suddenly, they had stopped. They claimed they had evolved past violence. They said they had learned that peace was better than war. They had joined the Federation as helpful, harmless friends who only wanted to heal and help others. Yextal realized this was all a lie. A very smart, very dangerous lie. The humans had not stopped being warriors. They had just learned to hide it. For 30 years they had been pretending to be weak, while secretly building the most powerful military force in the galaxy. They had been watching, learning, preparing for war, while everyone else thought they were gardening and making medicine. Every trade deal had taught them about alien technology. Every friendship had revealed military secrets. Every peaceful meeting had been a chance to study their potential enemies. The humans had been playing a game that lasted decades, and everyone else had been fooled. Yexel started checking the locations of human ships throughout the galaxy. According to official records, it had small medical vessels and transport ships scattered around Federation space, helping with disasters and delivering supplies. But when he looked closer, these ships were always in perfect positions to strike. At important military targets, they were not randomly placed. They were positioned like pieces on a war game board. The humans had spent 30 years putting their forces exactly where they needed to be for a massive attack. And nobody had noticed because everyone thought the humans were too peaceful to plan such things. A message appeared on his screen. Krex Empire's attack fleets had been spotted moving toward Federation space, the war everyone had been expecting. It was about to begin. But now, Yextel realized that this war was going to be very different from what anyone expected. The Krex had studied all the Federation's military forces. They knew how the Korath fought, how the Villani used their swarm tactics, how the Vex defended their worlds. They had prepared counters for every known fighting style in the galaxy, but they had never studied the real human military. Nobody knew it existed. Yextel tried to send a warning message to Federation Command, but he realized he had no proof that anyone would believe. Who would accept that the peaceful, helpful humans were secretly the most dangerous military force in known space? He could only watch and wait to see what would happen when the galaxy's greatest deceivers finally revealed their true nature. Coming war would teach everyone a lesson about the most dangerous enemies, the ones you never see coming. The attack came like lightning from a clear sky. 3 enormous Krex warships suddenly appeared near Kepler Colony, popping out of hyperspace. With their massive guns already glowing hot and ready to fire, the peaceful colonists had no time to run or hide. The colony's automatic. Emergency systems barely had 1 second to send out a help signal before the Krex. Plasma cannons turned the orbital defense stations into clouds of burning metal and gas. 30,000 people died in the first 10 minutes. Men, women, children all gone in flashes of superheated death. The Krex ground soldiers landed quickly after that, setting up terrible machines that would poison the air and make the planet impossible for Federation people to live on. They worked fast and without mercy. Like they had done this many times before, Admiral Kolvesh was patrolling the Rigel sector when the desperate emergency message reached his ship. He was an experienced military leader from a race that communicated with clicking and whistling sounds. His computer translated his words into normal Federation language so his mixed crew could understand him. The holographic display in front of him showed the horrible truth. 30,000 dead civilians. All orbital defenses destroyed. Enemy ground forces already working to make the planet uninhabitable. It was a complete disaster. Send all our ships to stop their next attack, Kolvesh ordered his officers. His voice was calm, but everyone could tell he was angry and worried. Contact High Command immediately. Tell them the Krex have started their full war against us. 18 hours later, the second group of Krex attack ships hit the industrial world of Vega Prime, but this time, the Federation was ready and waiting. Admiral Kolvesh had gathered every available ship in the area. Korath battleships with their thick armor and heavy guns flew alongside Villani carrier ships that launched clouds of small fighter craft. The space around Vega Prime filled with the bright flashes of energy weapons and the twisted metal pieces of destroyed ships. But something was wrong. The Krex were fighting differently than anyone expected. Their ships had new kinds of shields that absorbed the Federation's plasma weapons. Their boarding pods could break through electronic defenses that had protected Federation ships for decades. Worse, the Krex fought like they didn't care about their own losses. They would crash damaged ships into Federation vessels just to cause more destruction. Commander Yextel's ship, the Blade of Vengeance, got hit hard when Krex ramming vessels punched straight through his fleet's formation. While his crew fought fires and tried to seal holes in the ship's hull, he watched his battle computer screen with growing fear. The Federation was losing this war before it had really started. The Krex had studied Federation military tactics for years. They knew exactly how each alien race liked to fight. They had prepared special counters for Korath aggression, Villani swarm attacks, and Dex defensive strategies. Every move the Federation made, the Krex had an answer for. "Sir," his communications officer called out over the sound of alarms and explosions. "Emergency message from High Command. All remaining fleets must retreat to the core systems and set up defensive positions there." A fighting retreat. In 43 battles across his military career, Yextel had never been forced to abandon territory to an enemy. The bitter taste of defeat filled his mouth as he gave the order for his damaged ships to withdraw. 3 star systems away, Ambassador Li Hun sat in his diplomatic ship called Harmony's Promise, reading the battle reports with a carefully controlled expression. His aide Kimnari maintained her role as a worried civilian. but Heian noticed how her eyes tracked fleet movements and casualty numbers with the precision of a trained military expert. "The Federation fleet is asking for humanitarian help," Nari reported, reading from her tablet. "They need medical supplies, evacuation support, and refugee processing capabilities." Hugh nodded seriously. "Pair our hospital ships and transport vessels. Humanity must do everything possible to help our allies in this terrible time." Neither of them spoke about the coded message that had arrived from Earth Command 6 hours earlier, said only garden party preparations complete. Await spring planting authorization. To anyone listening, it sounded like meaningless talk about farming, but Han and Nari knew it meant something very different, hidden throughout space. In the shadows of asteroids and places where sensors couldn't see clearly, entire fleets of human warships powered down their systems and waited. In silence, these were ships that officially didn't exist, crewed by soldiers who were supposed to have been reassigned to peaceful jobs. Armed with weapons that Earth claimed never to have built, the Krex Empire believed they were fighting the same predictable Federation tactics that had worked well against other galactic powers they had conquered. They had studied Korth aggression, Volani swarm doctrines, and Nex defensive strategies for years. They had prepared perfect counters for every known military approach in the galaxy, but they had never studied humanity's true military heritage, because humanity had spent 30 years making sure no one knew it existed, as the 3rd Krex battle group prepared to jump toward the Federation's core systems, ready to deliver what they thought would be the final crushing blow. They had no idea they were about to face an enemy unlike any they had ever encountered. The galaxy was about to learn that the most dangerous warriors are often the ones everyone thinks are harmless. The Krex 4th battle group jumped out of hyperspace, ready to crush the remaining Federation forces they expected to find running away toward the core systems. Commander Jector was confident this would be easy. Just finish off the scattered, beaten enemy ships and claim another victory for the Krex Empire. But when they arrived, they found nothing. Empty space stretched in all directions. No fleeing. Federation ships. No debris from battles. No signs of life at all. Just darkness and stars. Commander Jector stared at his tactical computer screens with growing confusion. His sensors were showing impossible readings. Energy signatures that appeared for a few seconds then vanished completely. Ships that showed up on passive scanners but disappeared when he tried to get a lock on them with active targeting systems. Strange radio transmissions in languages that didn't match any known Federation species. "Make the search area bigger," Jector ordered his officers. The Federation could not have moved an entire star system's worth of ships without leaving any traces behind, but something was very wrong. The first sign of trouble came when his advanced scout ships simply vanished. Not destroyed in battle, their identification signals just went dead without any distress calls, weapon fire, or explosion signatures. One moment they were sending normal patrol reports saying everything was fine. The next moment, they stopped, existing 12 light minutes away from the confused Krex fleet. Captain Jung Sujin sat in the command chair of her stealth frigate, watching her human ships eliminate the last Krex reconnaissance unit. Her vessels were painted with special camouflage that changed colors to match the background of space, and they ran on very low power to avoid detection. The human ships had approached the Krex scouts, using tactics that no Federation species had ever thought to use. They moved very slowly and patiently, taking hours to get into perfect position for surprise attacks. They used misdirection, making the enemy look in the wrong places, while death approached from unexpected angles. All scouts neutralized, Jung Soo-jin reported over her quantum-encrypted radio channel. Krex main force is blind and advancing into the kill zone. The response from Admiral Choi came immediately through her earpiece. Phase 2 authorized. Show them something they've never seen before. What happened next challenged everything the Krex thought they knew about space warfare, instead of the direct fleet battles they expected. Human forces struck from impossible directions using weapons and tactics that seemed to break the rules of military science. Small human vessels, bigger than fighter craft, attached themselves to massive Krex battleships like tiny parasites on giant whales. But instead of normal attacks, they deployed microscopic infiltration systems that invaded enemy computers, turned defensive systems against each other, and broadcast the exact locations of command ships to hidden human artillery platforms. Krex found themselves fighting an enemy that refused to engage in honorable battle the way other Federation species did. Human forces used asteroids, gas clouds, and sensor dead zones that other species ignored as active parts of their battle plans. They deployed fake sensor signatures that made single ships look like entire fleets. While real fleets moved through space like invisible ghosts, most disturbing was how the humans seemed to know exactly where to strike every time, every attack. Targeted critical systems, command personnel, or supply vulnerabilities with surgical precision. It was like the humans had studied Krex's military doctrine for decades and prepared specific counters for every single tactic. Commander. Jektar realized with growing horror that this was exactly what they had done. His flagship shuddered under attack from weapons that shouldn't exist, energy beams that bent around shields, missiles that appeared from nowhere, and electronic warfare systems that turned his own ship's computers against him. Alarms blared as critical systems failed one after another. Emergency transmission to High Command, he ordered as sparks flew from damaged control panels around him. The humans, they never stopped being warriors. Everything we know about them is completely false. The response from Krex's command came back swift and brutal. No retreat allowed, no surrender accepted. Total victory or death. The Empire had built its fearsome reputation on overwhelming force and the terror it created in enemies. To admit they had been deceived by a supposedly peaceful species would invite rebellion from every world they had conquered. But as Jektar watched his battle group fall apart under attacks that came from everywhere and nowhere at once, he understood that the Krex Empire had made a terrible miscalculation. They had prepared to fight the Federation as they knew it, honorable, predictable, constrained by galactic military conventions that made war into a kind of deadly sport with rules. They were not prepared to fight humanity as it really was. Cunning predators who had spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of killing other humans, and who had spent 30 more years studying how to kill every other species in the galaxy. On Earth, Admiral Choi watched real-time battle reports with cold satisfaction. 30 years of careful planning, of pretending to be harmless diplomats and engineers while secretly studying every potential enemy, was finally paying off. The Krex had never faced an enemy like this. An enemy that fought without honor, struck without warning, and won through deception rather than strength. The galaxy was about to learn what human warfare really looked like when the gloves came off. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Federation Council started as urgent reports came in from all across the war zone. Something impossible had happened. The Krex Empire's unstoppable attack had not just been stopped, it had been completely destroyed by forces that were not supposed to exist. Using fighting methods that no one had ever seen before, Commander Yexthal of the Korath Defense Corps stood in front of all the assembled alien delegates. His hard-shell body showed fresh wounds and burn marks from the recent battles. The report he was about to give would shock everyone in the room. The human forces we fought against were not the small patrol ships and medical vessels listed in our official records, he said. His computer translated his clicking and whistling sounds into normal Federation language. They had entire battle fleets with weapon systems that are better than our most advanced designs. Their fighting methods show centuries of military development that they hid from this council. The Villani delegate's crystal body started changing colors very quickly, a sign that she was extremely upset and confused. Are you saying that humanity kept secret military forces? That breaks our Federation transparency agreements? I am reporting what my sensors recorded, Yextel replied firmly. Human warships that should not exist, using strategies that no Federation species has ever developed, winning battles through methods we thought were impossible. The Great Chamber erupted in chaos as delegates from dozens of different alien species started shouting, clicking, hissing, and making electronic noises of anger and confusion. They demanded explanations, made accusations, and called for immediate investigations. Through all the noise and confusion, Ambassador Li Heian sat quietly in the human section. his face calm and peaceful as the storm of alien voices crashed. Around him, the council speaker called for order by banging his ceremonial staff. Ambassador Lee, the Federation demands an immediate explanation for these irregularities in your military reporting. Hyun stood up slowly, his movement still carrying the measured dignity that had characterized human diplomacy for 30 years. But something had changed in the way he held himself, a subtle shift that the more observant delegates noticed right away. "Honored council members," he began, his voice carrying new undertones of steel beneath the diplomatic politeness. "Humanity has always been truthful about our capabilities. We simply allowed you to make assumptions about our limitations." The silence that followed was complete and terrifying. Every translator, communication device, and recording system in the chamber captured his next words perfectly. Earth never forgot how to fight. We learned something far more valuable. We learned when to fight. A huge holographic display activated. In the center of the chamber, showing tactical recordings from the recent battles. The assembled delegates watched in stunned silence as human forces demonstrated military capabilities that completely redefined their understanding of space warfare. For 30 years, Heian continued, humanity observed, studied, and prepared. We learned your strengths, your weaknesses, your fighting methods, and your cultural approaches to conflict. We did this not as enemies, but as students preparing. To become the defenders you would need, Colonel Park Mina entered the chamber. No longer wearing the modest robes of a humanitarian coordinator, but the crisp uniform of Earth's military command. Behind her walked Admiral Choi Dongmin, whose presence alone answered many questions about humanity's true military hierarchy. The deception was necessary. Admiral Choi addressed the council directly, a warrior species that announces its capabilities, invites challenge, and creates enemies. A peaceful species offering aid and friendship earns trust and learns secrets. We chose the path that allowed us to protect not just Earth, but all Federation worlds when the time came. The Korath General? Vextar leaned forward, his scarred features showing something between admiration and fear. "How long have you been preparing for this war?" "Since the day we joined the Federation," Choi replied calmly. "Every trade negotiation taught us about your resource needs. Every cultural exchange revealed your tactical thinking. Every joint, scientific project showed us your technological capabilities. We became the allies you needed us to be." As the implications rippled through the chamber like shockwaves. Humanity had not just hidden their military, they had spent decades positioning themselves as the perfect defenders of the Federation. Learning every weakness and strength of both allies and potential enemies, Ambassador Haynes stepped forward. Again, the Krex Empire targeted the Federation because they believed they understood our capabilities. They studied Korath aggression, Villani swarm tactics, and Vex defensive strategies. They prepared counters for every military doctrine they knew existed. He paused, letting the silence emphasize his next words. They never studied human warfare because we made sure they did not know it existed. Every battle they lost was lost. Before it began, defeated by an enemy they never knew they faced, the council speaker's multiple eyes focused on the human delegation. "What do you want from us now?" "Recognition, gratitude, control." Hyun's smile carried warmth that seemed genuine. "What we have always wanted to protect our friends and preserve the peace we all cherish. The only difference is that now you know. The true cost of that protection, the greatest deception had finally been revealed. Earth had never forgotten how to be warriors. They had simply learned to be warriors in service of peace.